What's up, it's Austin Rutherford and welcome to my channel where we talk all things business, finance, and real estate. Most people say that cash is king, and I 100% disagree with that. Cash flow is king. Cash is trash. The only reason anybody ever goes bankrupt is for lack of cash flow. That's the only reason. If you have cash flow, cash solves problems. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why and how you should be buying rental properties to make sure that you're never negatively cash flowing and you're actually making a profit and you don't have to file bankruptcy. Before we jump into the numbers, if you could smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm, I'd greatly appreciate that. So the first thing you need to start with is expenses and income, because you always got to have more income than you have expenses. So what is income? Income is rent. Rent income is the income that you receive on rental properties. Now expenses, there's a lot more to it than just one line item. So what are those expenses? One is it's called PITI. What does the P stand for? P stands for principal. So that's the principal mortgage payment that you make to your bank every single month. Along with that is the second letter, I, stands for interest. So it's your monthly mortgage payment is your principal and your interest that you pay to your mortgage company every single month. Now the third letter is T for taxes. So in everywhere in the country, you got to pay property taxes to own real estate. So whether that's $100 a month or $50,000 a month, whatever your yearly tax rate is, you divide that by 12, and then that would be your monthly tax bill. And then the fourth letter, the second I, is for insurance. So you want to insure your properties as well. So if you have floods, if you have fires, if you have tornadoes, or if any damages come to the property, the insurance covers that as well. So your PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance are four of the very, very normal everyday expenses you're gonna have on rental properties. The other two are repairs and vacancies. So repairs means that, whenever something goes wrong with the house, you own the house, you're not a tenant anymore. As a tenant, you just pick up the phone and call your landlord and say like, hey, something's broken, and they come over and fix it. As a property owner, those expenses are now yours. So you are gonna have repairs on your property from time to time, whether that's painting the walls, replacing the flooring, replacing the roof. You never know what's gonna happen, so that is a real expense. The other one is vacancies. You will never be 100% occupied for the rest of your life. There will always be a vacancy at some point. So if somebody wants to move out, if somebody wants to move, across the country, if somebody passes away, at some point you're always going to have a vacancy inside of your property. So you got principal, interest, taxes, insurance, repairs, and vacancies in the expense column, plus some other things, but that covers the majority of them. So when some people evaluate rental properties, some people buy them to not cash flow, which means that they don't make money every month, which doesn't make any sense to me. But their thought behind it is if you can cash flow zero, so if you can net zero, not make a profit but not necessarily lose money, but the property continues to appreciate, which means it grows in value. You buy it for 200 and 5 years later it's worth 250. That's what they're banking on, is the continued upswing in the market. The problem is if that the market doesn't continue up, it's a horrible investment. If it goes down, you're now underwater. And if they're banking on cash flowing at a net zero and they have, a terrible tenant that absolutely destroys the property, or the roof, the furnace, the AC, and the hot water tank all break in the same year, they will be negatively cash flowing. So what does that mean? They have to have another business that's creating a ton of income for them to then be able to pay for their mortgage to upkeep this property without getting foreclosed on. So me personally, I always buy for cash flow. Appreciation is a bonus, but I do not buy just for appreciation. So what are some tricks to the trade in real estate to increase your income and decrease your expenses? So if you can increase the amount of money that you're making and decrease the amount of money that you have to pay every month, there's more profit margin in there. So one of the first things is condition. So the condition of the property plays a huge effect in this. If it's in good condition, people want to live in that property. So your vacancy timeline might be less because it's faster to rent because more people want to be there. On the other side, the actual materials used play effect as well. So if you have carpet in there and you got to go in, you got to renovate the carpet and replace the carpet every year, that's a hard expense. If you got, countertop that break every single year, you got to replace those, that's a real expense. You hire some cheap contractor, to put some doors on and the doors fall off every other month, you got to send a maintenance person in there to repair them. That costs you money. So if you renovate the properties the right way and use the right materials, the condition will be better to, one, decrease the vacancy, meaning that somebody rents it faster, and to decrease your repair costs. Another huge thing is location. People always say, like, what's the biggest thing in real estate? Location, 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 location. So if you're buying properties, rental properties, in the middle of the country in some, town that nobody wants to be in and people are leaving the town every single day, guess what? Inevitably, you're not going to have anybody to rent your property. So I'm personally only buying properties in growing cities, cities that people are moving to instead of away from. Because if more people are moving to it, over time, the rents will continue to increase, i.e. you making more passive income. So personally, location, location, location always matters. The better location you have, the better it is. Now, let's say, okay, so now we split the difference between a bad city and a good city. What if you're in a good city? There's bad locations and good locations in the same city. So I want to be close to things that people want to be close to, So whether that's being close to the airport, whether that's being close to, great schools, whether that's being close to parks and amenities or restaurants and bars and it's walkable, I want to be close to nice things because again, if somebody has an option to pay you rent to live across the street, from their favorite bar, or to pay somebody else rent that lives a mile away from their favorite bar, who do you think they're going to pay? They want to be closer to whatever desirable location that they want to be to. So location matters massively with rental properties. And another huge thing that massively affects your income, your cash flow, is how do you finance this property? So let's say you go out there and you get a loan for 4%, and then I go out there and get a loan for 8% on the same property. You will make significantly more money because you have a lower monthly mortgage payment. Your principal and interest is significantly less than mine because you're paying 4% and I'm paying 8%. The other thing is the amortization schedule. So if we both owe somebody $100,000, but I have 30 years to pay the property off and you have 15 years to pay the property off, your payment is significantly more than mine because you have half the time to pay the same property off. So your amortization schedule matters as well. The longer you amortize the loan, the less your payment will be. Most places are 20 to 30 years. I personally do not take 20-year loans because it makes the monthly mortgage payment so high because I have such a less time to pay it off. I'm always trying to get 30-year loans, but sometimes I'll go down to 25-year loans. So 20 to 30 is very normal. Me personally, I'm always looking for 25 to 30-year amortized loans. So what types of rental properties should you be looking for to maximize the profitability? And there's three categories. One is properties that are severely under rented. So if you can go out there and you can buy a rental property and they're rented at $650 a month, but market rent is $1,000 a month, the day you buy that property, if they're on a month-to-month lease, they can increase the rent immediately and your cash flow goes through the roof plus $350 a month. It adds up over time, over the amount of properties that you own. So one of the options is to find a property that's severely under rented and then you can add value by increasing the rents. Another type of property is a property that needs a lot of work. If the property needs a lot of work, that means that there's usually high vacancies and high repair costs, which means that the property is not in the best condition, which means that you can usually buy it for significantly less than what the market value is. So you can buy it for significantly less, put a little bit of work into the property, and still not owe that much money on the property. So you can buy it for 100 grand, put 50 grand into it, and it'd be worth $200,000. So now your payment's less because you owe less on the property. Or the third option is that the property is just very poorly managed. Mom and pop, they try to manage it themselves. It's a single family house or a 5-unit apartment complex, and they just don't know how to manage properties. There's a lot of vacancies, a lot of deferred maintenance, which means that the roof is old, the gutters are like hanging off the house, the windows might be broken, the parking lot's torn up, the grass is overgrown. They just don't know how to manage properties. Those are 3 different types of properties that you can go out there and look for to be able to buy at a good price, to be able to cash flow positively into the future. So in my opinion, the most important thing that I'm looking for is cash flow. It has to cash flow positively. If it doesn't cash flow, I'm not keeping it as a rental. It's that simple. If it does cash flow, I'm buying the deal. So cash flow is king in everything that you do, especially when evaluating properties, which means that your income, your rent, is significantly more than your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, vacancies, repairs, utilities, property management fees, all your expenses. You gotta make more money every month than you pay out every month. So when I'm out there looking for deals to purchase, the worse condition it's in, the better it is for me. The more it smells, usually that means it's in bad condition, the better it is for me. The more poorly managed an asset is, the better it is for me. The more under rented a property is, the better it is for me. I've bought rental properties before where tenants were paying $200 a month. Obviously that's significantly under rented. Market was $1,500 a month. So I bought it for very, very cheap, went in there, renovated the property, and I was able to increase the rents to market value, making a huge spread in passive residual income, i.e. cash flow. So as you can see, there's a lot of numbers you got to evaluate, a lot of situations you got to evaluate when buying rental properties. So last thing you want to do is just jump in there and buy a deal just because you want a deal, and then you learn and find out that it's negatively cash flowing. So you got to run the numbers correctly, have zero emotion tied to real estate. It's all based on the number. Look at your income and look at your expenses and make a decision based on that. So this is valuable. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you drop any questions and comments you have in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe and notification bell so you can get all this content going forward. As always, appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the next one.